welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today we are going to be tackling the last non-guest character for Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang. I saved him for last because I wanted to get a friend of mine on board, and in order to try and help with things. However, schedule conflicts and things like that happened, and unfortunately we're not able to get the thing together, which it sucks, but that's just the nature of the beast. If schedules don't work, then they don't work. So we're going to do Liu Kang, and then we're going to do every guest. That's RoboCop, Terminator, Joker, and Spawn. And by the last guest, which should be Spawn, I will go into detail for a sort of press conference reveal to talk all about what I'm going to be doing for UMK11's release, which is, of course, going to introduce 3 new characters, a balance patch, and all of that good stuff. So keep in mind that is going to be November 17th. The day of, once I have that downloaded, that evening I should be able to get breakdowns going. But that is neither here nor there. That's a little bit too early for that. We'll set them to 100% though. Easy crushing blows, frame data for both. Luo Han Quan. Now, I know I did this basically 2 years too late, but it felt prudent for me to get around to talking about characters in this game, because better late than never, I guess. So I'm going to focus on attacks, of course. We always start with attacks that do not have strings attached to them, which actually isn't that many for Liu Kang, I think. And then we have enough, so we'll talk about jumping attacks next. So first up is low backhand. 7 frame down 1. Really nice. Gets the job done. Good poke. On block, it's -4. Next we have Conte Slam. This is a high. Yes, this is a high attack. Meaning that if RoboCop was ducking, this will miss. Even though it looks like it should bop him on the head. But regardless, this launches the opponent, which means you can get, if I land this right, combos. This can be a meterless combo starter, but if it hits an airborne opponent, it knocks them down. And the attack itself is -13 on block, so unsafe. Then we have Rising Chaku, a 10-frame uppercut with decent range, but nothing to write home about overall for uppercuts. Then there's Crouching Kick, a 10-frame down 3, more range than a down 1, and hits low, but is slightly slower to compensate, and is -5. Then there's Shaolin Spin, which is a 12-frame high, which can be special canceled. So if you manage to land this stray somehow, you can get almost 20%. But I wouldn't recommend using this too often unless you know you can potentially use it to finish off a combo. Then we have Chaku Sweep. One of the best sweeps in the game. It's kind of slow, but what's nice about it is its range. Start of the match, go for a low, knock the opponent down. It's active for, I believe, 2 frames, so it's fairly meaty, but on block, well, it's fairly meaty as far as sweeps go, because you can meaty somebody with this in a sense. But if the opponent blocks this, it's -17 on flawless block, and -12 on normal block. However, even at this range, I don't think there's too many 12-frame attacks that can connect. So you're going to have to try and flawless block this one, or the Liu Kang has to be too close. And even then, look at how far back he goes. Then we have Dragon's Tail, a 12-frame down 4 that hits low. It's -4 on block, but of course it's a stagger, so it's just a quick knock him back. Then we have Fist of the Lotus, Dragon Claw, and Heavy Heal. Nothing to write home about these attacks, but you're going to be using Dragon Claw most of the time if you happen to be airborne. Next, we're going to talk about his hop attacks, his wake-up attacks, and his throws. Both of them, because both of them have crushing blows. But first, we're going to start with Wait, we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with our jump attacks. 1-inch punch. An 11 frame mid that... Or an over... Not mid. 11 frame overhead that knocks down minus 12. Flame Stomp. This is an overhead, despite how it looks. You try to crouch block this, you're gonna get... your attack is gonna get stuffed. So, problem, its range is terrible. Like, you have to be at point blank range. And at flawless block range, it is minus 20. Minus 20 for this attack. And minus 15 if it's not flawless block. So, don't be fooled. If Liu Kang's feet ever leave the ground for any reason, just stand block. Except for when it comes to the flying dragon kick, but that's different. If you see him jumping in any way, shape, or form, just stand block, man. You don't want to be the guy who mistakes this for a low. And I'm not kidding about that. This is actually a low. Here, Liu Kang is going to deal with the stance holding, ducking, RoboCop. Overhead. Trust me on this one. I don't think a lot of people get caught by these shenanigans, but it is worth remembering. Then we have Game of Death, which is a Bruce Lee reference, of course. So I'm going to quickly set up a couple of different sweep scenarios. And then the next one is going to be just blocking. There we go. So, Game of Death. This is a Bruce Lee reference. It's a wake-up attack with very short range, but an 8-frame startup. This attack also will not catch jumping opponents, so be mindful of that. And on block, it's minus 7. So it is technically safe against some characters. But on flawless block, it's minus 12. Then you have Rising Dragon, which is a wake-up launcher. Nothing to write home about, but this is a half-decent anti-air as well, as you can see. The only thing is, on block, it is minus 14, so do be careful if you decide to go for this attack. Usually, again, on flawless block, so that you can turn a flawless block into a combo. And finally, we have both of his throws. If Liu Kang at any point fails a throw tech, he's going to get one of these crushing blows. But fortunately, he's only ever going to get the one. So, he used to be able to get them both, just like any other character that had both of their throws being crushing blows, but thankfully that's not the case. Hasn't been since, I believe, the Joker came out. Now let's talk strings. This is definitely something Liu Kang has in spades, because sweet mother of God, this man has so many strings. It's a lot, trust me. I'm surprised I was able to get them all. Okay, so, wait, am I missing one? No, I'm not. Okay, so first up is Twin Lotus. You're punished off of a 7-frame high, goes into a special move, nothing to write home about. So, bada bam. There you go. Then you have Dark Orders. This is a 9-frame true mid, even if RoboCop is ducking and stance holding. This is a mid against most of the cast. Some characters, like Katana, are capable of kind of slipping under this, but are capable of slipping under this with certain buttons, but be careful with that. Oh, before I forget, Twin Lotus is minus 6 on block, so only Raijin will be able to punish this on block. So you can afford to go for this. Standing 1 on its own is minus 2, and the double punch is also minus 2. So you can kind of stop partway through, be minus 2. You are minus, but nobody's going to be able to punish you. You can almost certainly catch somebody if they're going to go for a slightly slower button. Or, at the very least, trade. But you'd also keep yourself relatively safe. Then we have Dark Orders' block data, which is also minus 6. Back 1 is minus 4 on block, though, so it's slightly less safe than standing 1. But because it's a mid, it makes sense. But there is that flawless block gap in the middle. Here, I'll prove it to you real quick. And because you have to dial it in, it is a little bit dicey. But I swear that was part of a flawless block gap. But I think Methinks that I was mistaken. I may have missed or something. But the point is that this string is also -6, but you have to dial in this full string to get -6 or go for some sort of special attack or something along those lines. Then we have done listening. This is another sort of dial-in where you have to dial in the middle, but you don't have to dial the beginning or the end. The full string is -5, and the normal string knocks down. But because this is one of those strings that is really good for extending combos, you get stuff like this. At least in the corner. Oh, come on. Here, I'll go into the corner just to make things a little bit easier, but you can get this as a connection. See what I mean? And then you can knock them down to be +48, or just go for damage, that sort of thing. So you can do something like, if I do this right, okay, so it's a little bit too slow, at least for me, but the point is that you can use it to extend combos as well. The string on its own, all the way through, is -5. Standing 2 is -1 on flawless block. And I believe if you stop flawless blocking... Oh, that's why. It's literally on flawless block the whole time. There we go. Still -1. And -2, so barely less safe. So it's basically neutral on block. You can try and finish the whole thing to be -5. You aren't punishable, but I wouldn't stick your neck out much further than that. Then we have Lost Soul. You're not going to see too many Liu Kangs go for this one, but it is a double hitting mid that ends low. The beauty of this thing is that it uses nunchucks, so it has a little more range than most strings. But the problem is that the back 2 is -8, so punishable, and the low is -3. So if you accidentally get this button, make sure you commit and finish it. So you could do something like that in order to get full screen or mid-screen conversions. Why is that doing a thing? There we go. So you can get conversions off of 1-2 from mid-screen instead of using the 2-1 if you're not that great at that like me. See what I mean? And in fact, I think you get a little more damage out of that. That was 27% as opposed to... No, I was mistaken. I thought you got a little more damage off of that, but you get more damage off of this string. But at least with the nunchucks, you can perform them mid-screen. Just be mindful that if you do go for this string, just finish off the whole thing with the low so that you're -3. So you can basically save your hide. Then we have a quick end. This is, by damage, I believe, Liu Kang's strongest string. It's definitely up there because it's the same damage as an uppercut. And you can use this, again, to get decent damage. However, these first 2 kicks are highs, meaning that Liu Kang is vulnerable to ducking attacks. Fill out the full string to be -3. Standing 3 is -3 on flawless block. And I believe... yeah, still -3. And the middle is -3. So it's -3 across the board. So what you can do is this. Oh, it has to be Flying Dragon Kick. Not even, eh? Oh, I see. You gotta cancel it partway through. But it's still a really nice combo conversion if you can get it to land. Then we have This Will Hurt. Sounds appropriate. This starts low, is a 16 frame low with a really good range, and can be special canceled. So if you had overheads, which I don't believe Liu Kang has natively in his normals, he may have a few in his special moves. You can go for this and launch the opponent, or launch for this, or do this. Oh, really? There it is. Kind of trade the 1-2 conversion. If you have a hard time with adding that in and just need good damage, this is what you do to get really decent damage. Look at that. That was 25% meterless. That's not bad at all. Then we have Dragon's Breath. Oh, before I forget, this will hurt. Has a flawless block gap, but is always -2 if you finish it. And -8 if you just go for the low. So finish this string on block if you intend on it. But just be careful, if an opponent knows about that flawless block gap midway through, they could punish you for it. Then we have Dragon's Breath, and this is one of those strings that Liu Kang is infamous for. I totally forgot that you could do 1-2, 1-2, 3 into there. So, real quick. There we go. Good mid-screen damage. But that's the thing. This is a meterless launcher off of kicks. All of these are mid. The first kick is -9. There's a flawless block gap at the end there for -12. However, if it isn't flawless blocked, which could be expected, oh, I see. It's either those two kicks or not. But if the kick is fully converted, it's -12. If the kick isn't fully converted, -9. Still punishable, but just be careful that you don't get caught by that second hit, so that you don't accidentally eat more damage than you need to. Or, which is to say, if you're basically trying to block this thing, trying to wait for Liu Kang to punish, there you go. Then there's Chinese Warrior. This used to be a 9-frame mid. Now it's 11 frames. But this was still one of the most infamous strings that Liu Kang ever had. Because, for one, -7 on block. So, punishable only by the fastest of characters. Like Liu Kang, oddly enough. The second kick, still -7. But the final kick can be flawless block to be -11. But if you let it rock and miss the flawless block timing, Liu Kang is +4 on block. Meaning that he has a 4-frame head start on you, effectively turning this jab into a 3-frame jab. Turns it into a Street Fighter button. It's ridiculous. But this also has a crushing blow, Chinese Warrior. None of these other strings do, only Chinese Warrior. If at any point this string crushing blow counters or punishes, you get a launcher, which in the corner, if you happen to get this in the corner as a counter punish, look at that. I even dropped it and it was still 33%. So, let's try this. Oh, I dropped it. I know this can work. Did it too early. Bad sign. Bad sign. Come on. I know I can get this. Look at that. 41% off of an 11-frame punish in the corner. But the thing is, 90% of the time a Liu Kang main is going to get this out of the corner. So what can you get then? Because look at how far it sends him flying. Well, you can get Flying Dragon Kick for a start to make it almost 30%. Or you get the full string and Amplify, almost 35% and still got some really good distance. Now, of course, you could break away after this crushing blow, but if you do break away, the Liu Kang main still basically gets 30%, so breakaway isn't worth it after that crushing blow. Just eat the damage and try and save it for a more advantageous solution. Now let's talk about universal special moves, and Liu Kang has quite a few of those. I think that's basically it. Yeah, there we go. So first up, Fireball. Nothing to write home about. This is a big fireball, 17 frame fireball, does pretty good damage. Amplified to send 3 of them the opponent's way, knocks the opponent down. You can't really chain into these unless the opponent is on the ground, but as you can see, you can knock them back pretty respectively. Liu Kang can also do these in the air, from the jump or from the short hop. And if he does do them in the air, he can double them up. Then we have Flying Dragon Kick, which is what you would expect. It's not full screen, because it only has 10 active frames, but if you were 1 dash away from full screen, this will connect. And this has a crushing blow. If it actually has 2 recommendations. If this move counters or punishes from maximum range, or you have a combo of Air Fireball into Flying Dragon Kick from maximum range, you get the crushing blow. You are much more likely to be using this to try and catch somebody from maximum range, which I believe is between 8 and 10 frames. So I'm going to actually turn easy crushing blows off to figure that out. So dash in. Oh, that's right. I have to have RoboCop punish, or give me something to punish. Here we go. So let's say I'm here. So 7 frames isn't enough. Let's try this. Walk in a little bit. There it is. 9 frames definitely count, so you don't have to get it from exactly 10 frames. I think the range is about 8 frames. Yes. So from between 8 to 10 frames, that is the kind of range that you need to have that attack crushing blow. So it's a matter of a couple of different frames, but basically max range, counter something, slow projectile, or a whiffed attack or something. You give yourself 25%, no problem. But you don't get the amplify out of it, so be mindful of that. Then we have Bicycle Kick, which restands the opponent and leaves Liu Kang at +3. If he amplifies it, he knocks him down, +43, and then he can amplify it again to get slightly more damage and knock them back. I think it's plus. Quick anecdote, I didn't talk about this with Baraka, but if you are ever bored in Mortal Kombat 11 and just want to see something hilarious, let's set the gauge to full and just mash amplify. Oh, I guess that isn't a thing anymore. Ah, damn it. You used to be able to get it so that you could just keep mashing amplify and just, like, meter burn flying or bicycle kick all day. Anyways, bicycle kick has a crushing blow, which requires you amplify bicycle kick 3 times. So that was twice. Now you wait a little bit, you get a 3rd amplify, then let's say it's been stored. So let's say, for sake of argument, you counter punish with this strength. Almost 50%. Or, again, do this. Again, 47 to 49%. This is nothing to shake a stick at, folks. This is almost 50%. It's insane. And of course, if you're at mid-screen and let's say get an uppercut, you get 48%. And let's say you have it stored and you don't have any crushing blows. You could just do Kohei Slam and get 36% damage. It's any crushing blow that you can store is a powerful tool, and Liu Kang definitely has that going for him for sure. Now let's talk about the abilities in Variation 1, Luo Han Quan, which, by the way, this is going to be the most common Liu Kang you see online, so study up, folks. This is important. First up, Low Fireball. Slightly slower than Standing Fireball, but, oh, actually I forgot to mention, flying kick is minus 20 on block. It always is and always will be minus 20. Unless, of course, it's a flawless block. So, on flawless block, it's still minus 20. But minus 20, if you can't punish minus 20, you need to brush off some of that rust. Because almost every character can punish minus 20 at this range. You have something that can reach this far. Trust me. Study your move list and see what you can punish. And if you punish the high, and the bicycle kick is a high, so you can just duck this thing. It's also minus 16, so if you block it, you can also punish this. And because it's a high, get your damage. And I think that's basically it for universals. Now let's talk about the exclusives, which again is low fireball. Slightly slower, but again, it's a very dangerous tool, as any low projectile generally is. On Amplify, you throw a second fireball. The total damage is slightly less, but it goes low-high and knocks the opponent down. But if I were a clever little Robocop, I would just do this. I have to... Hold on. I'm not fast enough for that. Hold on. Well, the point is that you could take your turn back, and the Liu Kang has to block that. So it isn't perfect, but you can absolutely take advantage of this. And in fact, you can actually use, if you're better at this than me, use low fireball in the corner for damage. Look at that. And if you had that crushing blow from earlier loaded, that's 40%, 41.5%. And that was just me after a couple of tries. If you are dedicated to Liu Kang, you can find some seriously scary things off of low fireball. And then you have Shaolin Stance. This is a stance that Liu Kang can go into at any time. He's minus 27 if he goes for the cancel, and it spends defensive bar, so it's not great. But it's fairly quick, especially when you consider the buttons. First off is Sneaky Monk. 7 frame low. Good luck trying to punish this thing unless your blocking game is on point. It's minus 8 on block if you do happen to block it, so it is punishable. But I personally, so I would always block low. But here's the thing. There's a slight mix-up element here. Monk Fury. There's an overhead in that second hit off of a 5-frame mid. Now, I said that some strings are minus 5, so you might be thinking, well, why does this not punish? Well, the startup for Shaolin Stance is 20 frames. So this is effectively a 25-frame mid. So you're not going to catch anybody at minus 5 with this, so no. However, you might be able to catch somebody if they are too slow to stand block because of that second overhead. But if they do catch you, it's minus 16, and look at how close you are. RoboCop could just throw your ass. So caution is advised. So generally speaking, I would go for the low. You're minus 8, yes, but there aren't too many 8 or 7 frame buttons that I believe can catch at this range. And, okay, I forgot about standing 1. But here's the thing. It's better to go for Sneaky Monk than it is to go for this, unless you're confident that the opponent has been conditioned enough to maybe go for it. But it's a tricky proposition because, again, there's that first mid. So it's not a guaranteed mix by any stretch of the imagination. And finally, I'm going to have to program RoboCop for this one. We have Dragon Parry. This is an 8-frame parry, which is active for 41 frames. Basically, he's active as long as he has fire, and he recovers in 18 frames. So, the thing about this is that any low or jump in will be beaten by this attack. Same with projectiles. So, with Robocop, a character that has quite a few projectiles, if I go for a parry, I get punished for that, and in particular, a crushing blow in that case. However, if I, let's say, set Robocop up to wake up, like that. Let's say I do that and I get the parry. One. Oh. Might be trickier to do than I think. There it is. Look at that. I get a crushing blow. But that's not all, folks. Anytime I parry this, I can actually get, believe it or not, more damage and start combos with this thing. Which again, in combination with the bicycle kick, can be dangerous. But that's not all. Remember that this can parry wake-ups, right? That was almost 60% because you thought to wake up. Liu Kang's Dragon Parry Crushing Blow is one of the most powerful crushing blows in all of Mortal Kombat 11. I have the crushing blows on just to make it easier to demonstrate, but the point is, look at that. That was one crushing blow, and I already and Robocop is halfway dead. And if you have a bar meter in the corner, Liu Kang can potentially get another 50% or almost and kill you. Liu Kang in Luohan Quan is terrifying, and that's why a lot of people pick up Luohan Quan. But I'm going to tell you right now, you see Liu Kang go for this at any time, go for a low or go for a jump in. And for the love of God, don't wake up. You wake up against a Luohan Quan Liu Kang, you're as good as toast. Trust me, I have lost count how many times that's happened to me. So be extremely careful with that. Let's move on to the next variation, Wuxi Legend. The second most common Liu Kang variation. Mostly because of a particularly nasty shenanigan. That nasty shenanigan is Dragon's Fire. Now, first up, we need to talk about energy parry first. Which just stops projectiles. There's nothing to write home about, it beats projectiles. Unless Dragon's Fire is active. If Dragon's Fire is active, you can actually reflect projectiles fully. It's just kind of tricky for me to do. So, let's see, set up Dragon's Fire, and then thing, and then bam. Boom. See? And you actually get a respectable amount of damage out of that because you sent the projectile back at Robocop. But 9 times out of 10, people don't really have the time to deal with projectiles with the energy parry because they have to parry something within about 10 frames of its 11 frame startup. So, you use Dragon's Fire for the Dragon's gift attacks that can also be equipped. Albeit, I do need to remind you, in custom combat, these teleports are separate things that have to have Dragon Fire on in order to be equipped. It's kind of like how Death Spin needs to be equipped for Scorpion in order to have access to those strings that he has with the rope spear. But that's neither here nor there. 9 times out of 10, if somebody just zone you out, teleport. Teleport, teleport, teleport. Now, these are teleports, and these are teleports that can come from any direction. So the behind one is ridiculously fast. It's 31 frames. The upward one is 35, and the low one is 39. However, through some tech that I have learned from the ever-legendary True Underdog Gaming, I will link his channel in the description because that dude is awesome. There is something you need to keep in mind whenever you're dealing with these teleports. And I'm going to show you the secret tech to deal with these teleports. First up, you're going to want to deal with them by potentially trying to block. So they're minus 18 on flawless block. The low is minus 15. And the overhead is minus 13 on flawless block. They're all unsafe. But the tricky thing is trying to figure out which way he's coming from. And it might be tricky for you to realize that the overhead's coming if the Liu Kang is constantly going for lows to condition you with these, and then all of a sudden he drops in from above and Meteor smacks you in the head. But there's one thing you can do to deal with all of these teleports. And I'm going to tell you what they are right now as soon as I set them up. I have to set up all 4 teleports in order to make the points, but let's see. And of course, the last one being the overhead. Okay, you ready for this? This is how you beat any of Liu Kang's teleports if you expect them to be coming. Jump. Yes, I said jump. Because even with the overhead, once you see him disappear and you jump, I can jump kick you out of it. I can jump and 2 out of it, potentially. Knock you back. I can do it with, obviously, with any of these teleports. As you can see. And of course I could jump below. So, if you get the reactions down pat and you jump, generally speaking, you should be fine. One last thing to very quickly make mention about Liu Kang, though, before we proceed to the final variation, is that Dragon's Fire grants a small buff, which grants a small, but nonetheless noteworthy 20% damage buff to all of Liu Kang's attacks. So, because of how quick this is, you can do this, and this combo, if I can land it. I'm always a little too early with this. Becomes 418 instead of 366. It's a relatively paltry 5% damage increase overall to how much health you take off, but it's nothing to shake a stick at. That can make the difference. And finally, we get to talk about Variation 3, which is just butted out by Wuxi Legend. The main reason is because this attack has an armor break. Not a great armor break, but an armor break all the same. First, though, we're going to talk about one of the weakest teleports in the game, Shaolin Vanish. 39 frames, and Liu Kang just moves in front of you. So, and not even within grab range. So, he's just going to do this to try and avoid projectiles, but it's not a great teleport. It's there. It's certainly not absolutely terrible, but just remember that he has to recover out of this, and you can potentially catch him before he catches you. Then we have... Where? Did I not tag the button? Apparently I didn't tag the button. That's really odd. I'm just going to retag everything again because apparently I messed that up. What the hell? Oh, that's right. Okay, that's what happened. Skipped that one. Because for some reason it ended up... Okay, whatever. Anyway, Kusari Slam. It's a command grab that Liu Kang has. Does 10% damage. And if you amplify it, it does 140. Same damage as a throw. You can hold forward to release the opponent forward and still get that same damage buff if you amplify. This attack is Liu Kang's armor break. So what do you get? Not much. you get 275 as opposed to 279. So you get comparable damage. But if you manage to get this, harder, easier said than done, and get the amplify, you get 31%. So you get the same damage. You basically get 2 crushing blow throws, kind of, in a sense. Especially if you have this crushing blow throw on lock. See what I mean? However, it's definitely not the best in the world. This attack is a true command grab, but I don't believe it ticks into anything. I don't believe it actually ticks into anything. I'm going to turn Flawless Block off because for the purposes of this, we don't need it. Standing 1 doesn't. Down 1 does. So down 1 will tick into it. So if you're good with your down 1 tick throws, there you go. Down 2 will also tick throw into it. Down 4 will not. You can't even cancel into the command grab off of Konhei Slam. Back 2 will not, although that seems like it should. Standing 2 I don't think will. Generally speaking, single buttons, if they will tick throw, are about the extent that tick throws will happen with command grabs in this game, so... Although I also think... Oh yeah, because you can't input the cancels on Flawless Block. If the opponent Flawless Blocks your poke, you can't get a tick throw, which sucks. But generally speaking, if you're going to tick throw, do it off of a down 1 or a down 3, because that's about all you're going to get that tick throw off of. Then we have Nunchaku stance, which you might think, wait a minute, didn't we just talk about this stance? Not quite. That was Shaolin stance. Different sort of idea. Liu Kang also holds this stance for a really long time, can cancel out of it, but it is even slower than the other Nunchaku stance, if you can believe that, and he has a few options out of it. He can command grab out of it, which is nice. Do Nunchaku dance, which is a low, and Nunchaku flurry, which crushing blows. And if you're wondering how to get this crushing blow, it's simple. The opponent must have been hit with Nunchaku dance beforehand, which is a low. Guess the block right, and Liu Kang is minus 15. And guess the block right there, he's minus 16. So it's punishable, but there's a problem. Look at the startup rate for these. Nunchaku stance is 12 frames. Nunchaku flurry is 7 frames. If you can somehow block this, you have to be godlike at this game. I'm not even entirely sure that can happen. The only perk is that this cannot be special, that this cannot be comboed into. But still, the damage you can get off of this crushing blow is nothing to sneeze at. Finally, and we're actually going to go over to Luohan Quan for this one, we are going to very quickly talk about Liu Kang's Fatal Blow, which is not, again, something you should take a stick at. Seriously, if you run into a Liu Kang online, be prepared for a difficult fight. Overall, this guy's nothing to sneeze at. Enter the Dragon, which was also a Bruce Lee movie, is a 16-frame mid. Does pretty good damage, and knocks the opponent back considerable distances. Also, it has the Mortal Kombat Dragon, so how can you say no to that? So, we're actually going to very quickly go to my answer to Variation 2, which I believe actually has some different moves, but it definitely has the parry, which is important for the point of this combo. So, that is the Fatal Blow. Yeah, it has the Dragon Parry, Vanish, and the Command Grab. So it's more Variation 3 than 1, but still. What was it doing? Oh yeah, I was going to set him up to get up Omni Strike, which, yeah, that's his Wake Up Launcher. Works just fine because it's a Wake Up attack. And, oh, before I forget, minus 25 on Flawless Block, minus 20 on normal block. So if you block this, you should be okay. Now, here is the final, until we get to the guest characters, Fatal Blow combo for Mortal Kombat 11. Don't forget to be awesome, my friends. See you guys on the other side, and enjoy the pain.